if you think about it, Ken, you grew one of the largest pure play commercial pest control companies in the United States, and you had no salespeople.
Not one.
Not one. And you did that because everyone in your company was selling. And if I understand you correctly, your commercial techs would service for 6 hours in a day. The additional 2 hours was out there to build relationships with their customers. And you called that tech opportunity. So I'm your technician. I remember sitting in Philly. I mean, I'm not originally from Philly, but I spent years there.
I know.
And I remember you and I hanging out in Center City. We were right off Rittenhouse Square. We were at where were we? We were at a
Park restaurant.
We were at a Steven Star restaurant.
Park.
And I remember you literally showing me live how this all works. Your technician walks in, spends some time with the manager, spends some time with some of the other folks working there, builds a relationship with the team there, and tries to understand what else they need, kind of in a nutshell. Were they bringing anything with them? When your technicians would show up?
Would they bring anything?
Any materials?
Well, everybody was required. Nobody could carry their spray tank out in the open.
Why? Let's talk about that.
Sends a bad message, because suppose you're going to work every day. Mm-hmm. You're going to the office, not a pest control. I'm talking to anybody. We're driving down the street, and suppose this restaurant he drives by this restaurant that's a client of ours, and every 8 o'clock every Tuesday morning or every other Tuesday morning, the technician was scheduled to be out there. And every time that every now and then, and it happens week after week, this person driving by sees an exterminator, pest control guy going into the restaurant, because that silver tank is a warning sign to people. Forget the truck, the vehicle. It's, for some reason, you could have your name emblazoned on the side of the truck. Yep. That doesn't send red signal alerts to those people, but that spray tank does.
Yeah.
And so the guy may come home from work and talk to his wife. She goes, I would say in the past 6 to 8 weeks, I've seen a pest control guy, an exterminator, walking into that restaurant with a silver tank each time. We're never eating there again. Just sends a bad message. However, most restaurants in the United States are required by some type of ordinance to be treated and inspected by a commercially licensed pest control company.
Yep.
At a certain period, over a certain period of time. So my technicians would walk in with their basic case, and it's called a B&G case. Is that it would have the tank in there, but it have other materials too if they needed to do glue boards, things you needed to do on the spot. Of course, their van had more other goods and other materials if they needed it, but that was a requirement. Don't ever let the public see you with that spray tank in your hand.
Then, if you're never let the public see them with a spray tank, how did you want your how were your technicians to dress?
Impeccably. And I used to tell every one of my technicians, we will purchase everything for you except your socks, your underwear, and your belt. And pants were purchased. They had to be well laundered and cleaned. If they were stained, if they were ripped, we replaced. We had warm weather shirts, we had cold weather shirts. Only certain types of shoes that we purchased for the technicians that were slip-proof shoes so they wouldn't fall and hurt themselves. Hats that they wear, everything. They couldn't wear sport teams hat. They wore the Presto hat. It was almost in the military. You don't expect to see somebody wearing their favorite sports team's hat. We provided all the clothing that the technician could want.
So I understand. I'm a commercial tech. I'm doing my services. I've got my tech op time. I'm spending it with my client. But what about, how do I grow my route?
Use that time during that. You can, if you want to spend more than 2 hours out there a day and keep on going, and if you feel like you're on a roll too, we weren't looking for people with the gift of gab necessarily. We wanted people that were real again. When that technician came to the door, he would have a basic handout marketing piece, would try to get in there and just say, let me give you a free proposal. Do you have any issues you'd like to talk about? I'd love to have your business. Just speak from the heart.
But how does that work? So I'm a technician and I've got my route. I want to grow it. I want to make more money. So I walk into a place across the street. What do I say?
Say I was working. Tell them where you were working, why you're there, and be aware. This technician now has been working for a full day.
Yep.
He's not dressed in a Fortune 500 type suit. He looks like he's been working. He's a little dirty.
Yep.
That doesn't turn people off. When somebody sees somebody out there that their hair's impeccable, they're dressed to the nines, and they're selling pest control, that doesn't compute. And the person that's being approached might just keep saying to himself, just say no, just say no, just say no. But really, this is like if the plumber came to your door and said, hey, I was down the street, here's a flyer. If you ever have a clogged drain or something, give me a call. This will work in any service business when you think about it. Ours is a recurring revenue business model. So this technician, there wasn't that wall that was put up right away. We provided a tremendous commission structure for the technicians too, if they got that customer. The great thing is too, that technician service, and he could say that, he could sell that piece of business. He's going to be the same person that's going to show up there week after week, month after month, servicing that account. So it's not as though some salesman sells it and disappears.
So what about I walk across the street, I talk to a guy, and he says, hey, Paul, thanks for stopping in. You seem like a nice guy, but I use Orkin, I use Terminix, I use Rentokil. We got our own pest control guy. I don't need you. What do I say?
That's great. Okay. Hope everything's good. Hope everything is fine. If you know what, if you throw enough stuff up, something's going to stick. In pest control, somebody's going to need your service. Somebody's going to be a little frustrated that the problem hasn't been solved. Yep. Somebody's going to be, the technician is just not their cup of tea. They're not showing up on we were methodical in our route building. If we were there Tuesday at 8, it was every Tuesday or every other Tuesday at 8. We were there, or they could know when we would be there. The scheduling was done ahead of time. You never had to call. But if somebody says, we're happy, that's wonderful. Make a great impression. Don't be pushy. There's more fish in the sea, and they know your name. Well, here's my information. Never leave a business card, I said, too. Because
did they have business cards, your guys?
Yeah.
No, they did.
Do you remember when we first met at Park? Mm-hmm. And I said, here's my card. And you and Franco looked at me, and you said I was a little old. Being polite, you said I was a little old school with the cards. But
perhaps I did.
You did. But that's okay. But the fact is, we had a little marketing piece that they could keep handy. And I said, use a red marker and write your name and your company's cell phone number there too. Yep. That shows up. I said, if you ever need us, give us a call. If you have a situation that arises that there's a issue and you need somebody right away and your company isn't out there, remind them, it's presto, we'll be out there. You'll hear from us right away. We will be out there that day. Our technicians also had a great compensation plan. I had to compete to pay a person that was making what they did as an assistant principal at a high school, as a district manager of a restaurant chain. Yep. And a six-figure salary was not uncommon at Presto.
Let's talk about, how did you compensate these people?
In the beginning, it was a salary structure or hourly structure in the beginning for a trainee or a new person, for the most part. However, sometimes you would get somebody that had a lot of experience to take over an existing route. We could allow for that. Yep. A technician, once they build up their route to a certain point, it's very simple. Other people would roll their eyes in the industry and look at me, how can you afford that? I said, how can I afford not to? I have virtually no turnover. Yep. And I would pay a registered technician that wasn't fully licensed 25% of the gross receipts of the route, and certified tech with 30% of the gross receipts of a route. So if a route is bringing in $8,000 a week in revenue, which is not uncommon in an urban high-density route, yep, that technician is now making $2,400 a week, which translates roughly to about $130,000 a year. That's pest control. And they didn't work weekends. They didn't work nights. It worked, and they stayed with that job. They were home to see their kids. They started early, so they were home by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, got to see their kids home from school.